Wendell Scott, 1961 to 1973. Wendell Scott was the first black driver in NASCAR's top series, running nearly 500 Cup races from 1961 to 1973. Despite a lone victory in 1963, he earned more respect than money during his career. Operating on shoestring budgets, Scott never had major sponsorship backing and often raced with second-hand parts. In 1969, his highest-earning year, he won just $47,451 in prize money, modest even then. Supporting a family of 7, Scott sometimes repaired used parts himself to keep costs down. His story exemplifies the many independent racers of the 1960s who scraped by financially for the love of the sport. J.D. McDuffie, 1963 to 1991. A quintessential independent driver, J.D. McDuffie made a record 653 Cup starts over 27 years without a win. Running his self-owned number 70 car, McDuffie's operation was perpetually underfunded. He rarely could afford new equipment and often lagged behind factory-backed teams due to a lack of financial backing. In fact, McDuffie rarely kept up with the field because of budget constraints. He famously never finished a race on the lead lap. McDuffie relied on used tires and engines, scrounged parts, and help from friends just to race each week. He died still chasing that elusive win, a symbol of the shoestring budget racers of NASCAR's past. James Hylton, 1964 to 1993. Despite 602 Cup starts and 2 wins, James Hylton spent most of his career as a low-budget owner driver. He finished second in points 3 times, 1966, 1967, and 1971, impressively so, given his meager funding. Hylton later revealed the stark financial reality. Over 27 Cup seasons, he took in about $1.5 million total. Every bit of the prize money went back into keeping the car running, Hylton said. Luxury for Hylton was having an extra set of tires. Even into his 70s, he pursued racing, attempting the 2007 Daytona 500 because, lacking a retirement cushion, he had racing in his blood despite the financial strain. Morgan Shepherd, 1970 to 2014. Morgan Shepherd notched 4 Cup wins in a career spanning over 4 decades, but in his later years he became known for racing on a bare-bones budget. With 517 Cup starts, Shepherd turned to owning his team in the 2000s. Practically no sponsorship money came in, forcing him to run as a start and park, qualifying for races but parking early to save on tire and engine costs. He often could not afford to finish races without risking his small team's survival. In 2004, Shepherd qualified for 19 Cup races in the number 89 and often parked early because the team lacked sponsorship. Well into his 60s and 70s, Shepherd continued fielding his number 89 car with volunteer help, exemplifying the faith and perseverance of a journeyman driver facing continual financial hardship. Buddy Arrington, 1964 to 1988. Buddy Arrington epitomized the independent driver with a 25-year Cup career and 560 starts without a win. Racing primarily in the 1970s to 80s, Arrington stockpiled used Chrysler parts and ran outdated equipment to save money. He remained loyal to Dodge long after factory support waned, often fielding years-old cars against modern machines. Arrington's best finish was 3rd, twice, and he logged 15 top 5s despite minimal sponsorship. "It's like a guy working in a factory. That's just what I do," Arrington said of racing for a living, noting he did all right, but only by working day and night at it. With no big sponsor paychecks, Arrington made racing his humble livelihood, scratching out a living in the sport he loved. Jimmy Means, 1976 to 1993. With 455 Cup starts and no wins, Jimmy Means became a standard-bearer for NASCAR's Underdogs. An owner-driver for most of his 18 seasons, he ran used equipment, chased takeoff tires, and leaned on friends to make race day possible. By the early 1990s, Means admitted it cost way too much money to even be competitive as an independent. The factory-backed tide was simply too strong. Still, he showed up, often start and parking when tires or engines were beyond the week's budget, and occasionally grinding out finishes that felt like small victories. He rarely finished on the lead lap, but that misses the point. Survival itself was an achievement. Even after stepping back from driving, Means kept a small team alive on grit and resourcefulness. His career reads like a ledger of sacrifices, time, sleep, money, made to keep chasing the green flag. In the mythology of shoestring NASCAR racing, Jimmy Means isn't a footnote, he's a chapter title. Hut Stricklin, 1987 to 2002. Hut Stricklin made 328 Cup starts without a win, carving out a respectable run as a steady journeyman. A member of the famed Alabama gang by marriage, He's Donnie Allison's son-in-law. Stricklin landed rides with mid-level teams but never secured a long-term, top-tier sponsor. When his driving days ended in 2002, he returned to the family's salvage yard business, a blue-collar contrast to the wealth enjoyed by NASCAR's superstars. Running Stricklin auto and truck parts, he's known to pitch in on everything from the loader to oil changes and cleanup. Racing purses never made him rich, so he shifted back to honest work to make a living. An appropriate ending for a driver who spent years grinding in NASCAR's middle tier. Kirk Shelmerdine, 2004 to 2006. A four-time Cup champion crew chief with Dale Earnhardt, Kirk Shelmerdine walked away from a premier pitbox career to chase his dream of driving, and quickly met the sport's financial realities. From 2004 to 2006, he fielded ultra-low-budget Cup entries with outdated cars and volunteer help, living frugally on the road. During the 2006 Daytona 500, he famously made the show while bunking in a modest motor coach far from the luxury lots. He qualified for a handful of races, including that 2006 Daytona 500, largely out of pocket, with minimal sponsorship and scant prize money to show for it. His story underscores a hard truth. Even a championship-winning crew chief can struggle to survive as a driver when the resources aren't there. Cuckoo Marlin, 1966 to 1980. Clifton Cuckoo Marlin, father of future Daytona 500 winner Sterling Marlin, was a four-time Nashville Fairgrounds track champion who also ran 165 Cup races as an independent, without a win. Racing part-time while raising a family, he never had major sponsorship and earned roughly $330,000 across his Cup career. To fund the passion, Marlin worked multiple jobs off-track, farming, machining, and auto repair, and often skipped big NASCAR events during planting season. In the garage, he ran used cars and engines, taking pride in being competitive on a budget. He still notched 9 top 5 finishes despite the financial limits. His humble career and return to everyday work mirrors the hard reality many 1960s to 1970s racers faced while chasing their NASCAR dreams. Neil Soapy Castles, 1957 to 1976. Neil Castles made 498 Cup starts without a win, grinding as a proud independent for nearly 2 decades. Often fielding his own number 6, he vowed, "So long as I can feed my wife and kids, I'm staying in the sport." To keep the dream alive, he took a second career as a Hollywood stunt driver, crashing cars in films, including Greased Lightning, to supplement meager racing pay. A side gig he called the best thing he ever tied up with. Even so, racing was the addiction he couldn't shake. Scrounged parts, occasional entries for better-known drivers, and long nights in the shop. Poor but determined, Castles epitomized the 1960s independent who would do almost anything, even flip a car on camera, to fund his need for speed. Dave Marcis, 1968 to 2002. A veteran of 883 Cup starts, Dave Marcis won 5 early victories but spent his later years as one of the last owner drivers. The last of the independents, he ran his self-owned number 71 well into the 1990s on a tight budget, famous for racing in wingtip dress shoes to keep his feet cool rather than invest in pricey systems. As money thinned in the late 90s, he aligned with Richard Childress Racing for technical help, operating with a tiny crew while the super team swelled. He kept postponing retirement. "I'll go fishing someday," because racing still paid the bills. When he finally hung up the helmet after the 2002 Daytona 500 at age 60, Marcis stood as a folk hero for stubbornly chasing the green flag despite the finances. Carl Long, 1999 to 2009-2017. Carl Long's Cup story shows how a single financial hit can sideline a journeyman. In 2009, NASCAR fined his tiny team $200,000 for an oversized engine, then the largest Cup fine, plus a suspension he could not easily clear. Effectively priced out of Cup for years, Long scraped by in the lower series, scavenging takeoff tires, rebuilding cast-off parts, and emptying savings to keep a small program alive. "Racing is an addiction," he said. "When you start off broke, it's hard to walk away." After resolving his penalties and licensing hurdles, Long returned to the Cup grid in 2017 with a small team, an emblem of persistence in the face of financial ruin. Jeremy Mayfield, 1993 to 2009. Unlike many on this list, Jeremy Mayfield reached real prosperity. 5 Cup wins, major rides, celebrity, before a stunning fall left him in financial ruin. In 2009, a disputed drug test suspension detonated his career, sponsorships, and income. Legal battles piled up. By 2012, he filed for personal bankruptcy. Properties slid toward foreclosure as he burned through what racing had built. He went from a large North Carolina estate and high-dollar toys to selling assets to service debt, and he even faced criminal charges tied to stolen goods found on his property. These days, Mayfield keeps a toe in the sport via short track and hobby racing. His arc is a blunt cautionary tale. In NASCAR, fortune can flip fast, turning a former Daytona contender into someone just fighting to make ends meet. Ed Negre, 1955 to 1979. Ed Negre was the archetypal 1960s independent owner driver. 338 Cup starts, 0 wins, and a shop that ran on shoestring budget and minimum sponsorship. Over 24 years, he earned roughly $344,000 in purse money, tiny by modern standards, and did much of the mechanical work himself. His operation was so lean he gave Dale Earnhardt Sr. his first Cup start in 1975 by fielding a second car cobbled from spares. Negre slept at the shop, towed cross-country himself, and squeezed speed from used engines and takeoff tires. He still logged 26 top 10s, but never had the funding to truly contend for wins. He stands as a proud emblem of NASCAR's early independence. Men who raced for love more than money, and at best, broke even. These men raced on faith, grit, and scraps. Which one do you think deserves more recognition in NASCAR history? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the NASCAR Explainer.